What if the secret to real diversity isn't about checking boxes, but about seeing the full humanity in each other? Welcome back to Talent Talks. Our host, Emily Alvarez, will be diving into a conversation that honestly gave me chills. We're exploring the difference between performative DEI and the kind of authentic inclusion that actually transforms cultures from the inside out. My guest today is Cassandra Chandler, and her story is absolutely remarkable. Cassi became the first African-American female special agent to reach assistant director level at the FBI, breaking barriers during some of the Bureau's most transformative years. But here's what struck me most. She didn't just break through glass ceilings. She learned how to build cultures where everyone could truly see each other. From her incredible recruitment story involving a bank robbery confession call to shaping fraud prevention frameworks at Bank of America, Cassi has spent her career proving that when we lead with humanity first, everything else follows. She's going to share why the Ted Lasso approach to leadership isn't just feel-good television. It's a blueprint for building the kind of workplaces where people actually want to show up. We're going to explore why bias awareness matters more than bias denial, how hospitality-driven leadership transforms teams, and why Cassi believes 2026 needs to be our This Is Us moment, where we stop dividing into camps and start seeing our collective humanity. This conversation touches on everything from generational workplace dynamics to building hope in challenging times, and I think you're going to walk away with a completely different perspective on what authentic leadership actually looks like. Let's dive in.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Talent Talks. I'm your host, Emily Alvarez, and I am absolutely delighted today to be joined by our guest. I've been waiting for this all week, so I'm very, very excited. Her name is Cassandra Chandler, goes by Cassi. Cassi is very special. We connected almost immediately when we had our pre-call. But Cassi has a very phenomenal and big background. She's led elite risk teams inside the FBI as the first female African-American assistant director, retired now, but shaped frameworks for fraud and DEI at Bank of America, other big institutions like that. Real work, though, is you're committed to basically the rest of your career building cultural clarity, right? In institutions designed to distract from the truth or from showing the full picture, right? Giving
Yes,
all of the information so that ultimately people can make their own determinations with as much information as possible, not
absolutely.
cherry-picked
Absolutely.
information,
Not
right?
check the box, but
Exactly, not the
yeah,
performative stuff.
yeah,
Right. Love
absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
But
So,
I did want to make a little correction.
yeah,
I am not the first African American female assistant director. I'm the first
oh,
special agent
special agent.
assistant
Oh,
director.
there we go. Special
Because
agent.
the FBI did hire professional support employees within the
Gotcha.
organization for any particular role. And there was a woman, a Black woman, who was an assistant director, I think, in computers at one time.
Gotcha.
Before I became an assistant director with special agents, it's an entire career move up the ladder. It's not
Yeah.
just
And
being hired
right.
in the position. Yeah,
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 and special forces is, I mean, you knew my uncle, he was part of the Ted Kaczynski case. I mean, there's
yeah.
this during that time in the FBI was an absolutely fascinating time because there were so many changes going
Yeah.
on.
Yes.
And being in federal law enforcement for women during that time was very interesting
Yes. Yes.
because you had DEI, right? But it was
But I mean, and nobody really talked about that. It wasn't,
right.
you
It didn't
were
have a
not
name like that.
right, right.
Yeah.
And there were not special programs that said, that looked at your DEI type numbers. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was placed in a position as a special agent recruiter by a special agent in charge in office in New Orleans. And at that time, he said, "Hey, Cassie, I want you to recruit more people of color in and more women into the organization." I said, "I don't want to do that. I want to become a supervisor in white collar crime. I don't want to go out and be a recruiter.
Right.
I want to be your applicant coordinator." And he said, "If you would," he said, "if you would take this role for 2 years, I promise you, you would become an a relief supervisor on your favorite white collar squad." So I did the job. And then I
Yeah.
became a relief supervisor on the white collar. But when I was doing the job, I was looking for women, Black, African Americans, Hispanic, all kind of various things. I was out very aggressively recruiting, but I
Right.
looked for the best of the best. I brought in the best of the best. I had one Black female applicant who I put before a career board, and she was rejected by one person on that career board. I had met this young lady. I knew she would be a dynamic agent. And so I
Right.
waited the requisite number of months, and I put her back through the process again with another different career board. It was one white male agent on the old career board who did not like the way she spoke and refused to vote for her. Nothing else. Her background was brilliant and beautiful. The next
Right.
career board thought she was brilliant and beautiful, and they hired her. So
Right.
it's I went into the position, yes, looking for women, people of color, bring in some new impact, but I was never given numbers of things to change. I was put in there for
Right.
Cassie, you've got this personality, go in and recruit all kinds of folks so that we can make sure we have all kinds of thoughts and perspectives coming into the
Right.
yeah, not check the box. Did you bring
Right.
your number of six books and then and I'm just going to go and to this historical Black college and do my recruiting and you
Of
don't
course.
it wasn't like that. It was more
Right.
about how do we diversify who we are so that we can make sure that we're bringing all kinds of minds, thoughts, and perspectives to the table. We can look at all different cultures and make sure we're having the right impact across the board.
Yeah, and that's brilliant because that I think is well, that was the whole purpose of why DEI was born, right? Why why
Yes.
we labeled it as that, or why we came up with a term for what you were doing and sourcing, applicants that were dynamic and that were full in culture and diversity and background and all these different things where they could look at unique perspectives and
Right.
bring different ideas and innovation to the table. And that's the purpose of hiring a dynamic team, right?
Yes.
And
You
so,
don't want to have just group think. You want to
right,
make sure you have a lot of different perspectives at the table.
correct, yeah. And someone that won't be afraid to also say, you know what, that's not working,
That's right.
or that's a blind spot. And having the person that has to receive that information say, I trust you. And yes, we need to look at this further. And it becomes a collaboration,
Yes.
right? So you went out and you started dynamically hiring, right? And doing what DEI was intended for. And the Bureau changed. I mean, we know this looking at it, it has changed.
Well, I think if you look back during the time period when I entered, it was during a time period where the number of people of color and women increased dramatically. But it
Correct.
was
Yeah.
because at the time, the director of the FBI, it's not that Congress laid something out or there was some special requirement. It was the director at the time wanted to see a more diverse workforce.
Right.
And he encouraged his special agents charge, get out and let's bring different people in, different perspectives. He did that.
Right.
This director at that time. And so things began to grow. And that's normally the best way for things to grow, Emily, is you bring people in and they take on looking for, reaching out, building relations, becoming mentors to others who then come into your organization, right?
Right.
At one time, I was working with a police department, and there was some concern about the recruiting, right? Because my company works with recruiting, it works with diversity, cultures, and things along that line. So I'm working with this police department, and they're concerned about the number, not enough Black applicants coming into the department, but yet there were tons of female applicants coming in
Right.
of all races.
Right.
And when I looked at the why, it's because there were two female police officers who took it upon themselves to go out and recruit female police officers, individuals to become police officers. And they were very aggressive. They did it outside their normal work. It wasn't a role that they were specifically put in and said, this is a diversity and inclusion role you must bring in. They just went out and they let people see them and get to know them. They became mentors. They started working with young women in colleges and things. And women were flocking to the force
Right.
because they started building camaraderie and spirit and a culture of you belong. And when I went to the Black officers and I talked to them about their recruiting method, they were not as aggressively going out and showing and being a part of the community and say, come in, here's who we are. It's not what you see on television. It's not what you just heard in the news. We're the police. We're not opposed. We're not against you. We're with you. And so they were not recruiting people in as assertively because it wasn't a personal, I guess I could say it was not a personal thing for them.
Right.
There were people specifically assigned in a diversity program to do it, but it wasn't just people in the organization who wanted to bring people in. Does that make sense to you?
It makes perfect sense, because if you can't connect in an organic way, sometimes culturally, that becomes very difficult, right?
Yes.
Especially if that person is not going out of their way to kind of make the first move, because you're the one that in that situation is going to have to make the first move.
Yes.
If they're not coming to you and your
Right.
job is to go to
That's right.
them,
To go to them. So
yeah,
let
so
me give you an example.
you better not be ignorant in that situation. When you go to them, you better know about the culture and be able to integrate.
It's like not just going to hey, the police are recruiting today, so or hey, the FBI is recruiting today.
Right.
Who shows up at the booth? No. It's about getting out in your community and letting people see you and get to know you and say, this is a role that's a possibility for you. I'm just like you. Right. So just to give you an example, I was recruited into the FBI in a strange way. I never thought of the FBI. As a matter of fact, I love history. I was very much opposed to some of J. Edgar Hoover's style in handling Black Americans historically. The Black Panther Party did a lot of good work, a lot of good things for its community. And then we saw a lot of negative things going, COINTELPRO and all kinds of things.
They're a terrorist organization and all the things.
So you start thinking, FBI. But when I met an FBI agent because I was working at a television station in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Yeah.
And I was in law school at the time, getting towards the end of my law career, and my law school career. And I was working at the television station part-time in a supporting role because I had worked as a television journalist years ago before I went to law school.
Right.
So I'm sitting in there and I'm answering the telephone. My role is to answer the telephone and help the evening newscaster put together the newscast, right? So I'm answering the telephone. A man calls in and he says, hey, my name is so-and-so. I am in the French Quarter and I robbed a bank in Washington, D.C., and I accidentally shot and killed the teller. And I've been running ever since. And I know I see your face. I've been running ever since. And I want to give myself up. But I want to do it in front of the news because I know if I give myself up, otherwise they're going to kill me. They're going to shoot and kill me. So I'm on the phone with this guy, right? I go to the director who's putting together the newscast. The news director says to me, Cassi, we don't have time for that right now. The newscast is in 30 seconds. Just my FBI. So I go and I say to the guy on the telephone, sir, could you hold one moment? Where are you located? Let's see if we can get some folks out there for you. Blah, blah, blah. Calm him down, right?
Yeah.
The FBI, I'm on another phone. I call the FBI, tell them who I am and blah, blah, blah. And there's this gentleman, but it was a real story. It wasn't fake. It was real. The FBI goes out. They arrest this gentleman in the French Quarter. It's a big news story. Next day on the news. And
I bet it was.
I had no idea because I originally thought it was some kind of a prank call.
Of course. Yeah. It's like that doesn't happen on a Tuesday at the bank.
So the FBI then has to come in and interview me because I had gotten a full confession from this guy and they get prepared for trial and everything. And the moment the gentleman came out to meet me, they immediately started recruiting and they never gave up. And they sent more people to come and talk to me. I'm like, I don't know, the FBI. I'm a law school student. I'm going to go and do blah, blah, blah. And I had worked in a variety of places, a U.S. Attorney's office in the Virgin Islands. I was going to be an
Yeah.
assistant U.S. attorney. But I became fascinated by the beautiful, brilliant people who came out to meet me. It wasn't that they were Black. It wasn't that they were female. It wasn't that they were male. It was
Right.
people, human beings with great spirits. I liked the things they told me. And on the back of my mind, I thought I could be like James Bond. Oh, 07.
Right. Like a ninja.
Oh, 07. Rah!
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's like the toughest sounding job in the world, right?
So it fit my personality.
Yeah.
But it was because of the way they recruited me. I don't believe I was ever just a number that they
Right.
wanted to recruit. They
Yeah.
saw something in this kid and they decided we want her within our organization, right? She
Right.
fits our culture.
Right. Yeah. And I've heard a lot of stories about that where that's how it used to happen, or like the CIA used to just pop up at like some hotel, like conference room,
Mhm.
and they would put like ads like in the paper,
Yeah. Yeah.
and people would
Still
show
goes
up.
on. Yeah.
Yeah. People would show up thinking, like, is this going to be like a real thing?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sure enough, it was,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and it was like they did that intentionally to see like if people were actually curious enough.
Yeah.
And if, because back then we didn't have the internet and all that stuff like we have now, but there were only certain ways you could reach people. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, but I think that's really, when I think of DEI, that's what I think of is you can turn a camera off or not really see the person or whatever and have a conversation with them.
Mhm.
And I know within about 30 seconds if I'm going to vibe with that person. And
Yes.
then, like, what's going to happen from there. Right. And it's kind of unfortunate that we don't look at these situations like what you experienced. That's a creative way to
Yeah.
look at someone and say, wow, this person's probably really good at conflict resolution, probably really good at keeping someone calm under
I
pressure.
would not be surprised if they thought that through
They were
because that's
probably
exactly what
analyzing you
yeah,
the whole
I
time.
would. Yes.
Yeah, they were psychoanalyzing you
Right.
the
Yeah.
entire time.
Yeah. I
But
wouldn't be.
that's incredibly creative. And I know other managers like myself and our team, like we've been known to do stuff like that, where
Mhm.
I've seen people do something and they have nothing. And I'm like, they would be like a really good employee.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just like, hey, you want to come like work with some AI, or you want to, maybe like if you want to throw your hat in the ring for this position, because I see something that is abstractly somehow connected to what they might be good at. Seeing something that is in them that they don't see in themselves.
Exactly.
And I think that's kind of the ethos of this podcast, right? Is what would it really take for us to see each other?
Right. Absolutely.
Right? And the culture and the myth of merit,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
I would think that along the way in my career, I I think I can honestly say almost every career move I made was because someone saw something in me and encouraged me to apply or
Yeah,
to move into this role or Cassie, why don't you give a try on this? There was
right.
always someone who saw something in me that I may not have thought about, but it turned out to be an excellent role for me and my background and the types of things that I'd like to do. When I think about see me, I was talking to a friend last night, having dinner with one of my friends here in the community, Stacy, and we were talking about the old TV show Ted Lasso. Did you see that
I
show?
love that show. Yeah.
And it was
It's a
funny
great
because while
show.
we were looking at it, she was saying, I love Ted Lasso. And I said, the first 2 years, the first two seasons, by the end of the second season, I was sitting back saying, God, this guy is the worst coach. He yet to come up with any ideas. He has yet to move these kids into strategy of this and that. And I'm going
Right.
on and on about he's not coaching these kids. The other people are who's working with him, but for a coach. And what I failed to see, and shame on me, because I believe in the right culture.
Right.
I failed to see until the end of that season. I kid you not, Emily, at the end of the third season, I wept for how beautiful he had created his team, how he
Yep.
had brought them together to see each other, know what it's like to be a person who's in this role, know what it's like to have to run the ball that kind of way, know what their history and their backgrounds are outside of here, so you'll know when they're having a bad day, know how
Right.
to see one another beyond the body and the face that you just normally see every day. We're all
Right.
beautiful human beings. Can we just
Exactly.
pause for a second and see each other? He built a culture. He built a see me culture,
Exactly.
and it was
Yep.
beautifully done. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And
Ted
that,
Lasso people, you did a great job with that show.
yeah, that show is awesome. I had one of his that coach is the guy that Ted Lasso is based on is actually a real coach.
Oh,
Um, and I had one of his mentees on the show, interviewed him, Brian Byro, and he said he is just phenomenal. He was a phenomenal human being. He's no longer alive, but yeah, that's what he was really good at, was
yeah.
seeing things in other people that they didn't see in themselves. But to me, and I think this is normal human nature stuff. We all have bias. That's normal to a
Yes.
degree. It's how we protect ourselves as humans, right? There are certain circumstances that we may get ourselves in or around people. Like if I'm walking down the street and someone is screaming and yelling like a lunatic and waving a knife around, I'm probably not going to go near that person. I'm
Right.
probably going to call the police and assume that this person is having either a medical emergency or some sort of situation that they need help, right? Before they hurt themselves or someone else, right? And
Mhm.
so there are situations like that where I want to get that person assistance, but not put my own health or safety in jeopardy unless I'm going in to intervene with something. We might have certain biases against um, unsafe mostly it's around safety situations, I would say, for myself. But biases exist and I don't think we can help that to some extent.
Just well,
um,
and you say to some extent because I think we can help it.
well, we can if
Biases
we're
are
aware
often,
of it, we can if we're
yeah,
aware of it.
you have to become aware of your
But
bias.
that's the thing though, Cassie, is I think that most people, they don't have enough self-awareness
That's true.
to be
Absolutely.
able to know that they are being
Right.
biased in some way.
Right.
And that's the issue, is like for me, I see humans first. Like I really I people say the whole colorblind thing and all of these different terms and whatever um buzzwords, right? You
Mhm.
want to
Yeah.
use. And
Buzzwords.
I can look at you and identify that you're black, right? You can look at me and identify that I'm white,
Uh,
right?
uh-huh.
And there, I mean, that's obvious if you ask someone's race or gender or whatever the case may be. But the thing is, like, I see you as a human being.
Right.
And that's the
But
first
everybody
thing.
thinks they see each other as human beings, and they don't.
And they
So
don't.
I walk
Right.
into the room, I'm immediately the black woman.
Correct. And
Walk.
that's something that whether or not you choose to act on that judgment
Mhm. Mhm.
is the issue.
Mhm.
That's where it is. And so I think that's what we have to fix,
Yes.
is this idea that um DEI, we've kind of taken this idea and bastardized it into
Yes.
something that it's not, because now we have these really good people out there that are losing jobs that are well deserving of them,
Yes.
because they're taking the concept of DEI and saying they only got that job because they're black,
Right.
or they only
Absolutely.
got that job because they're a woman, or they
Yeah.
only got that job because they're a Jew,
Right.
or
Right.
whatever the case may be. And it's like,
Yeah.
whoa,
Yeah. 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 No,
whoa.
I
Did you
agree
even
a
look
hundred.
at their, did you even, have you even met this person before you just,
Yeah. I
you
mean, I
know?
think every time I ran into a situation where someone thought that, within a couple of months of working with me, that's gone.
Yeah.
Because I'm the kind of person who never operates with what I see immediately in front of me. I want to know everything else about it so that
Right.
I can figure out strategically what's the next direction I need to go. What's
Yes.
the vision we're going to have to put in place?
Right.
And I tend to have groups of organizations of people who might start thinking, oh, they put this black woman over, blah, blah, blah. And then once they get into the, yes, but why? How do we do that? Where do we bring that together? What is the intel telling us? I'm very intelligence driven.
Yes.
And they'll sit back and for anything, Emily, intelligence is important for any little thing you
Everything, I
want
would
to
say.
do,
Yeah.
everything. And so they'll sit back, and then once they saw how that's good, then everybody wants to be on the team and they want to be a part of it and they get really excited about it. And then you get the chance to start building that culture. It's not about what you saw in someone when they walked in the room. It's about what you have in common, how we're going to make something beautiful from what we've been given. And we can do it, only can do it when we do it together. And it's just, I just truly, I'm a firm believer, if we see our humanity, it changes things. When I teach diversity and inclusion, I don't call it diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion. I don't. It's diversity and inclusion. It is seeing who we are, diverse, having a diverse group of people, and saying how can we all be included together.
Right.
So for me, diversity is something that has to be personal. What do you want? It can't be something a company throws at you and beats over your head and tell you have to do and put the numbers in. It's got to be something personal. Do you see me? Can you understand my history, my background, why I think and walk? Do you understand why you see me a certain way because television's taught you that? And that's not who I am, right? So we've got to get to a point where we see our humanity outside of color. Colorblind is a cute thing to say, but I want you to see my color because there's something about what I've gone through.
There's culture there.
Yeah,
exactly. And to me, that's just a lie to say that. And it's
you cannot be colorblind. I
It's
see color.
insulting.
I accept it. And I see the beauty in all.
Right.
But it is more so because I told you about intelligence, but I am so curious. I want to know what you and your family eat during this particular holiday. I want to know, can I come over? Can I be a part of this? And I'm excited about learning new things about different people from different areas. Hey, you come to my home in Louisiana, we celebrate Christmas a certain kind of way. We have certain kind of food. What you call gumbo is not what I call gumbo.
Right, exactly.
I'm from the jambalaya capital of the world, Gonzales, Louisiana.
Exactly.
And other stuff, and you put red stuff in it. That's not jambalaya. This is what you can see. The white individuals in my community, the men, the women, the Black, Hispanic, all the people in my community, we all think the same thing. These people are going out calling this stuff gumbo. You don't know what you're talking about, right? It's a community culture. It has nothing to do with race or gender.
No.
It's all about who we are and what we have in common.
Right. And I mean, it goes any which way you put it, right? Diversity, to me, it's so funny because like diversity is pretty much anybody that's different than you.
Yes, absolutely.
So like
in any kind of way, by the way.
Exactly. So diversity is really kind of like, if they're different than you, then they're diverse. But it's about finding people who are more diverse than yourself, that are outside of, the normal, like just, in other words, they're not going to tell you what you want to hear all the time, because then it's just dishonest.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
Or you don't grow.
Yeah,
You're just living the same thing every day. Yeah.
Or you can't see your blind spots, which to me is even worse because, it's one thing to win and have your wins, but the blind spots are what prevent you a lot of times from evolving and moving forward because you're still tripping over the same stuff, the same potholes that never get filled. And so I think one of the things that doesn't get talked about a lot is, where did we go so terribly wrong with this? I mean, because I think it's one thing to say we need to see each other with humanity, right? And to me, it's sort of like a given. Like it's like, this is like, everybody should just know this, that we should, have this. I mean, I get some of it is cultural, but at least in a workplace, this is something. And if you have stuff going on behind the scenes, you have to ferret that out, right?
Well, I'll give you a story. And this will show you where things went wrong. I was having a conversation at Bank of America. When I worked there, I was a part of their diversity and inclusion task force, or it was a group of top leaders that the CEO has selected to bring some concepts and perceptions to bear on how they could build a more diverse culture.
Right.
He had given each of us a different area to focus upon. And when we went through that, and everybody were different races, different gender, ethnicities, all within that organization, that task force. But what happened, the outcome of it was that people were thinking its primary responsibility was to bring in more people of color and women, move them up into supervisory positions at the expense of the white males who were there. So this is what they're thinking. And nobody took the time to dispel that thought. Nobody took the time to say, no, what we're trying to do is make sure everybody has equal opportunity to excel. And so diversity and inclusion became the negative. And then we started putting it on, our core values, diversity. But what does that mean? What does it mean to everybody?
Define it.
Yeah. And then they started putting in performance programs. How many people of color did you move into supervisory roles? How many women, blah, blah, blah. And the numbers started building in. And then it became the checkbox exercises. And oh my gosh,
right.
We completely lost the meaning of what that means. After we had George Floyd incident, death of George Floyd, there was a lot of Black Lives Matter movements across the country. In Charlotte, North Carolina, a group of individuals came through, and at one point, the windows at the Bank of America main building were broken by the group that was going through. So we had this big discussion because people, I think President Trump, his first election was around that time. And we ended up having some programs to let people talk. And the first one I was on, I was sat as one of the leaders to talk to the group, along with other leaders on the dais. And someone made the comment, well, they came in and they broke the glass and they did this and they did that. And everybody just accepted it, shaking their head. And I turned to the person saying it, who was a white male, and I said, who are they?
Right.
And so he looked at me, he said, Black people. Well, it wasn't just Black people in that Black Lives Matter movement. There were white people in there too. And so who's the they that did the breaking? And then the automatic assumption was it's Black people came in and they destroyed everything. They tore up our building. Okay. I go to the next little meeting and I'm sitting and this is starting to get riled up again, right?
Right.
And they came to me and I did this story and I said, I came home on Inauguration Day of Mr. Trump. I had to drive I was living in Charlotte during the week, and I would drive 2 hours to my home in Pinehurst, North Carolina at the time. And it was always, at the week I lived in Charlotte, weekends I was home. I came home one day and my son was there, and I walk in and my son said, Mom, I came home today and Dad had every TV in the house on Fox News, and he was furious. I said, where is your dad? He's next door over at a Trump inauguration party. Well, my son was not for Trump. He was for the Democratic candidate. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, my husband comes home and he's something of a cowboy. And he had he's former Marine, former retired FBI guy. And he has his belt buckle on, the big cowboy belt buckled, and he had on his MAGA hat. And he walks up to my son and he gets in his face and he said, son, today is a great day for America. Ha, 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 as he's holding the belt and whatever, right?
Yeah.
And my son goes, and they start screaming, yelling at each other. And I flipped the TV on and I started watching The Simpsons. Now I tell this story.
Great disruptor.
To that group, right? I told the story to the group.
Yep.
A white male at the end of the program sent me an email and said, thank you. Because sometimes it seems that we're always wrong. And I never get my voice. I'm never allowed to speak what I'm feeling and seeing. And I had said at the end of my little story, when I think of they are my husband, they are my son, they are people I know and love, they are people I don't know, but they can be anybody. It's not a race-related thing. They are just people who think differently. It's not a matter of how do we keep ourselves apart into our own little enclaves, but how do we bring our people together? And that's, to me, what diversity should be about, is how do we bring our people together?
Right.
How do we discover beautiful, brilliant new things? And I know maybe I'm all touchy-feely, Miss Humanity, but I believe it. I believe in love. I mean, maybe child of the 60s. I got
and you know what? That's all right.
La, 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 la.
Yeah, and you know what? That's all right because I've already decided and claimed that the theme of 2026 is going to be that like we all help each other win,
Good.
right?
Yes.
Because the thing is, and I know you and I talked about this, there's certain it, well, okay, this is not a political show, just as a disclaimer to the audience, but I'm gonna just get this caveat. I do believe there is a correlation, very pretty clear correlation backed up by a lot of evidence and a lot of polls and studies that have been done on this, that a lot of the stuff that we've been having in the workforce with the DEI and the kind of the breakdown of this and the some of these conflated issues with culture that's been happening in the workforce lately um, has a direct correlation to what's been going on in politics. Now,
Hmm.
if you don't know what I'm talking about, turn on a television and type in DEI and American politics today.
Hmm.
And just go to YouTube and try to find some middle of the road source that'll tell you something if you can. But what is happening is there's this what we're talking about is the divide of how the tool of DEI is being used. And it's not being used in a way that is effectively what it was originally designed for, which
Right.
is to create opportunity
Right.
and to create fair opportunity where at one point in time opportunity didn't exist, whether that was sports, entertainment,
Yes.
education, opportunity was jobs, anything really. And so now people are losing their jobs. Stuff is happening in organizations because people are now saying that jobs are were given to people when they shouldn't have been based
See,
on things that
and I have a problem with the companies that are allowing that to happen because
exactly.
they
And so
never
do I.
believed in diversity to begin with.
Right. And so do I. And also now we have the proposition of adding in AI, right, to screening candidates and doing these things, which I'm not 100% opposed to at some point in time, because I know that if you get 5 million applicants on one position, it is very, very difficult to like screen those people down. And then you need to have some mechanisms in place. But like,
You can
you
use, but
still,
AI can be tainted
right.
to have a certain view that
Yes,
would
a thousand
eliminate people.
percent. You have
Right.
to be very careful with what you're doing.
Exactly.
Like, come
Yeah.
from an ethical place in how you're doing your
Yeah.
AI. But what I'm seeing and what studies prove is that there's a correlation because the political stuff that's going on in the arena right now is to kind of get rid of DEI and say we're going back to just straight up merit-based hiring, which is you went to Stanford, this person went to community college. We automatically give Mr. Stanford the job.
Yeah.
This is what's messed up about this. Listen, we all know that people from rich neighborhoods traditionally have the money to buy their way to the top. Come on, guys. If I have to tell you that, you're living on another planet. And
Yes.
so when you are coming from sometimes a politically or not politically, but a economy or a neighborhood that is economically deprived or that doesn't have the same opportunities that the rich white neighborhood has, you're not going to get the same opportunity to probably go to Stanford because your parents are not going to be able to afford the $85,000 a year it costs to go there.
Hmm.
So it's a totally uneven playing field.
Yeah.
And companies are wanting to hire that way. Even if Mr. Stanford didn't go to class the entire time they were there and did drugs in the bathroom and got their degree
I would
because they
say,
fought their way to the top. I'm just saying, like,
I hear
I'm
you.
not
I hear
saying that
you.
that's a normal situation. I'm not
Yeah.
saying people that go
Yeah.
to Stanford do drugs in the bathroom. I'm just saying, like, any scenario can happen, right? I
Yes.
could be a serial killer with a Harvard education and get hired over someone that is a rocket scientist that went to community college
Yeah.
because that's what they could afford.
But I do believe that all of this boils down to a corporate executive level. What are you looking for? When you
Right.
sit back and you say, I'm building a culture, and you outline your core values, what are your values? And
Right.
if one of your values is diversity, then you know that's not an answer, because I don't want just people who went to the muckety muck universities. I want the people who have demonstrated the ability to work hard to pay their way through college, or I might
Yes.
be looking for that. I want to look for people who have demonstrated that they provide certain support to different organizations that are essential to survival for others. Or
Right.
it's what does a corporation, what does a CEO demonstrate? And as a matter of fact, let me give you a little quick story.
Yeah.
Like telling stories, obviously,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Tell all the stories.
I happen to have the opportunity to speak at an organization that was led by an individual named Danny Meyer. I don't know if you've ever heard of Danny Meyer. Danny Meyer wrote the book Setting the Table, and he
I
has a
have
number
not.
of restaurants all around New York and all around the country, actually.
Okay.
And the beauty about this person, when I went in to speak to his group, he was having a program for his leadership team, and he asked me to come out and speak. So I get a chance to go. He sent me his book beforehand. I read his book. And here's the thing, this is a CEO. And I'm telling you, I speak to a lot of organizations.
Yeah.
I speak on leadership, and I'm primarily focused on humanity, leading the human of tomorrow and servant leadership type principles and stuff. Every single organization I go to that has a CEO with a heart for his or her people, the group that's sitting there are happy, they're together, it's very diverse, they're pushing something forward, they're excited about the company every single time. And I am brought in to sit with other groups that everybody's sitting in their little whatevers like this. Cassie has to speak and they have to listen to this woman, and there's no camaraderie, there's no enthusiasm, there's no excitement. What's the difference? The difference is that CEOs like Danny Meyer, who wrote Setting the Table, and in that book it says, I cannot tell my people to provide hospitality to people coming into the restaurant unless I first provide hospitality to them.
Yep.
Wow. Imagine a CEO knowing, if I show my people respect and encouragement and integrity and the kind of professionalism that I provide, that's the culture that my organization is going to be. I'm going to show you that you're important to me. And then you can show people that are our clients or customers that they are important to us. But it starts at the top. So all of this diversity stuff, if a CEO and that executive staff doesn't believe in it, don't care about it, nothing moves forward. I sat on a board of directors for the Leafly Corporation. And when I met the CEO of the Leafly company and asked her about bringing me on board, she says, I wanted to have a woman on my board that had good experience in compliance and risk and whatever. And I saw your name, and I wanted you. And she pushed to get me there. I went through a lot of interviews, but I came on her board.
Wow.
And so many other boards, they'll look for, I just need a Black person. And they take the same Black people that's been on 5 or 6 other boards, and because nobody's really looking for the humanity of, I want somebody who thinks like us as a part of us. They're just looking for, how do I quickly check the box? Because someone said I have to have a number. Stop that. Start looking at people. People are willing to provide that hospitality to your customer and clients because you provided it to them. It starts at the top, Emily, and so many organizations don't have it at the top. I went to one conference, and everybody was so happy and excited. I walked in the elevator in the hotel, and people talked to me. They didn't know me. And they said, like, am I a part of their group? I thought it was the hotel staff. It wasn't. The hotel staff was there. But the people who were treating me kind, looking me in the eyes and treating me like I was a fellow human being, were the people who were a part of that conference, because I saw them in the conference. And I asked a young man afterwards, what's different here? Why is everybody so happy? And this young man said to me, I'm happy because my supervisor's great. And I'm new to this company. I'm excited about working here. I can tell you, when I walked in, the CEO was sitting at a table and said, come over here, Cassie. He wasn't just sitting with the other muckety mucks. He was just sitting at a table with his people. Wow. And I wanted to go work for it. It was a bank. I wanted to go work for that.
I love it. Yeah.
Because of the relationship.
Jealousy of the culture.
It's the culture of everybody sees each other. They're enjoying each other. That's their core values. It's us. This is us. And so when we take a look at what's happening right now politically and how we're dividing,
Right.
I'm hoping 2026 is going to be the this is us time. We're
Right.
getting back to it's all of us. It's not little groups, not little that. It's all of this is us. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think you raise a bunch of really amazing points there. I think when we have companies that have a great culture, it doesn't surprise me that the man that wrote Danny Meyer, when he wrote Setting the Table, talks about taking care of his people first, and CEO sitting down, or owner sitting down with his people, because um all of the great CEOs or founders that I have worked for throughout my life
Mhm.
have always broken bread with their
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
And it's because I don't know that you get much more intimate as a team than when you're like at one person's house and everybody has like food they bring over, or everybody comes over for dinner and everybody breaks bread, brings maybe their family, like their kids or whatever, and just like hangs out like a big like potluck kind of a thing. And I think we used to do it at Hudson when I worked there. The whole company would do it, and we were like the United Nations because we had people that worked there from all over the world.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you had food from all over the world. I mean, it was like, I have pictures of it, like the long tables, like banquet tables with food, you know,
Yeah.
and had the best culture of any place I've ever worked because they really cared. But they understand that there is also a correlation between the way you treat your people and the way your customer or clients experience your company and your
Mhm.
products. Because if your employees are happy, they tend to put out better quality. And
Right.
and that's it, that's the correlation, that's the key. So when you have a culture where you are just looking to tick another performative box and put another poster up on a wall,
Right.
something like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
people know when you're full of shit.
Yeah.
I've said that all this year. I'm like, hello?
Absolutely.
Like, we
Absolutely.
know when you're full of shit. So who are you trying to kid?
Yes. Yeah.
And it's a top-down thing. So if you have like your C-suite or your CEO or whoever is the face of the company that is not consistent
Yes.
with these initiatives and these changes, and they're not the one that's like embodying that in every initiative the company does, even down to like your marketing and your advertising and like the way that that is forward facing to the public, all of the things, then people know you're full of shit. And
Yeah.
it's like you can't run a business like that in today's world, because I think sometimes I go back and forth on this, because we're a society that like screams and yells about how we want truth tellers and how we want uh people that are genuine and how we want people that are authentic.
Mhm.
And then people come out and they're authentic and they're genuine and they state their opinions, and then they get torn a new one.
We're gonna get that one
Yeah,
out of
they
the
get
mail.
they get canceled or they get torn apart.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so then I wonder sometimes if like when we talk about looking for diversity, if some of these diverse people are like afraid to actually kind of like
Yeah.
be
Be themselves.
themselves, because it's like, am I going to get canceled if I say the wrong thing?
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm not the most PC person on the planet sometimes. Like, and I'm not intentionally, I'm not like, I don't say really bad things. I'm not like, but like sometimes I don't know the right term to use. And especially since the kids keep changing them all.
Yes.
So,
That's when
like,
I know I really am old because things.
right?
What
I
does
don't,
that mean?
right? I don't know. I have to get out, hurdle, hold on while I get my glasses on. And then I pull out my Urban Dictionary with my font on 500 because I can't see, and then I have to like figure out what to say. No.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not, but I think people get freaked out
Right.
because it's like, am I going to get canceled? Am I going to get fired? Am I going to get this?
Or
Am I
when
going to
we
get
look at
that?
what, or when we look at diversity, by the way, I want to throw this out because of what you just said.
Yeah.
It's also the age thing too, because
Oh,
I,
a thousand
I was
percent.
I was teaching a class on leadership to a group, and when they asked Q&A, one of the women in the group says, "Well, Cassie, I mean, what do I do? I've got this older man on my group, and how do I get rid of him?" And I'm thinking, and I looked at her, and I'm thinking, does she know how old I am? And so I looked at her and I said, "Do you know what he knows, because
Right.
he's been at the organization now for 15, 20 years. What is it he know that maybe you don't know? And he
Right.
can be a reliable and a very great source for you to help you in moving and planning and creating your vision moving forward. He might be the best person to show you what did not work in the past, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Instead of looking at how quickly can you fire him, why don't you take a look at what value can he bring to the table that's going to help you move forward in the way you want to go, or even if the way you want to go is the right way, because he knows
Right.
it. Go back and check with this guy. And she got real quiet, but I was so surprised, first and foremost, that this is an open meeting with all of the people there, and most were much younger. Most were
Right.
much younger group that this organization was moving along, that I would be asked that question. And that's also a way that people are thinking. When we think of diversity, we think of the old days, we would look at race and gender, whatever. But an age thing is also something. Someone young can bring something new and exciting to your table. Someone old can bring something new and exciting to your table. Don't just dismiss people because of who they are.
Right.
Bring
Yeah.
it.
I had
That's
that
the culture one.
conversation. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I had that conversation last night. Like, we have 5 generations in the workforce right now.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I'm a Gen X, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Gen X, I always joke that we're the Cracker Jacks box decoder ring, because you have the millennials and the Gen Z that think, they're the Y generation. They want to know why. And
Yes,
then you
yes.
have like the boomers and what's the one before the boomers? I don't remember what they're
I don't
called.
know if they're still out there
Generation.
yet, the boomers. I mean,
Some
beyond the boomers, I don't think that
some of them, I
maybe
mean,
they're out there.
I don't
Well,
know.
boomers.
I don't know. One of my friends, like great grandpas, is still involved in their company, and
Okay.
I don't know, some weirdness there, but he was like real young when he had I don't
Okay.
know.
All
It's
right.
like
All right.
weird. So he's like in his 90s, um, but yeah, there's like 5 generations in the workforce right now, right? And then you have like the ones that won't talk to each other, and then the Gen X are kind of like in the middle of everything, trying to like translate. But what's really funny to me, the person I was talking to, first of all, after they gave me crap about using labels, I was like, well, what am I supposed to call them? Like I'm just making a distinction of but then at the same time I was like, well, this is part of the problem, is that like we're not actually acknowledging what's going on. We're worried about, oh, I'm using labels. Well, who cares about that right now? The bottom line is I'm making a point about the lack of communication. And the lack of communication is you have groups that are not wanting to budge or change, or like wanting to make make any kind of drastic decisions on anything. They're not disruptors, right? They're pretty much like, let's keep things the way that they are. And I'm looking at things like AI, right? And technology and the way things are kind of progressing. And then you have like the millennials and the Gen X that are innovators, they're question askers, they're truth tellers, they want to know. And those two groups are doing this
Mhm,
most of the time.
mhm.
And Gen X is kind of in the middle because we speak all those languages fairly fluently, at least to the point where we're not like arguing with them, but we're like irritated because we're stuck in the middle of this nonsense that is like both extremes,
Yeah.
which is kind
Yeah.
of like a mirror of what's going on in the country right now.
Exactly.
And
And that's
so
and everybody has an assumption of what
everybody
this
has an assumption, and everybody is operating out of fear,
right. Absolutely.
right? Which is like not good, because that's when
So when
people's
we're thinking
emotions get
about
high.
diversity,
Yeah.
we've got to make sure we figure out diversity has to include those different cultures as well,
Yes.
because we
Yes.
all bring something to the table.
Yes. And
Right.
they all have to respect each other, even if they don't agree.
Right.
That's the that's the
When I
key.
went to work with the on the board, one of the executives at the company called me a something head. We were having dinner and she says, "Oh, Cassie is a something head." I don't know what the word is. And I looked at her and I thought, "What does that mean?" And she said, "Well, you're kind of older, but you're real cool." So she says, "But you're real cool, you know stuff." And I'm thinking, okay. I don't know if she said raghead or some kind of head thing. And so I sat back and I thought about it. The group, for some strange reason, that they were all much younger executives at this business.
Yeah.
They respected my opinion because I was something of a, it was the way, I don't know if it was the way I was dressed. I had one of my cool kind of outfits on. I wasn't in my little suity suit. I was in my,
Well, I told you I almost wore the same thing, so I don't know, you
so
know.
it made me, so that made me a whatever head. Um, but they listened. And I may have said the same thing someone older said who was dressed in a bun, a tight bun, and a
Yeah.
St. John suit. And you may not have listened because I just look like the older person and whatever. But I
Mhm.
came across a little more casual, lean, casual, kind of cool beans kind of thing. And they happened to listen and it helped.
Yeah.
So when we think about culture and diversity, we just got to recognize we pretty much still are the same, regardless of all those groups. We just need to listen to each other and
Yeah.
find that commonality again so we
Yes.
can
Yep.
build and grow upon it. And it has nothing to do with race. It's all about an age kind of thing. So you got the race diversity now, you got to worry with that. You got age diversity, you got gender diversity, you got all kinds of things, ethnicity and but you know what? It all comes together. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Right.
If you look at it from that standpoint, let's all have dinner and let's all talk and you'll sit back and say, wow, really? I love
Right.
that.
Yeah. And we have, I mean, realistically, because we are human, and if we see each other as human first and we are acting through humanity and empathy,
Yes,
which I
please.
believe most people want to act through, even if they can get out of their own way. I think
Right.
most people are just human. We're humans. We're programmed genetically and biologically to act that way
Yeah.
as the default setting until, we only go wrong if something gets screwed up in the wiring, right? But we're for the most part we're wired to go right. I think as far as like being kind to each other, being empathetic, being human,
I
right?
hope so.
I
I
hope
hope so.
so. I hope that's the
I,
default setting.
I hope so.
You know, if
I hope we're not moving away from that and becoming more
I
it's
hope
all
not.
about me and I don't care about you and it doesn't
Well,
so what do I care? I hope we're
well,
moving
here's
in that direction because
here's
I'm
what I
seeing more of that.
well, this is what I'm worried about as well, because I wonder about some of the younger generations because of what I'm seeing with the violence and the sort of this desensitization
Yes,
that's coming along
absolutely.
with technology, which is why like our company working with AI, we're working so hard to push a human first AI initiative because it's so important to keep that humanity in the tech, or else we're in for some serious problems
Yes, absolutely.
that we don't even know what the consequences of
Oh,
stuff like that is, and I don't want to think about it. So,
absolutely. Wow.
but what I believe is that we have a responsibility. I have, a 21-year-old and a 17-year-old. My daughter just turned 21. And my other one turned 17 in like less than a month. And I think, kids right now are having a hard time finding a purpose.
Hmm.
And they're watching mom and dad and grandma and grandpa fight a whole lot,
Hmm.
right? And reflecting on all this, like all the change and the memories and stuff that's happened in my lifetime, and I'm sure your lifetime, because I mean, if you think about what the stuff we've seen
Right.
that's happened in this world, right? And I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, you really have no idea. Like, you have seen so little of this world so far. And unfortunately, the little bit you've seen has not been the greatest so far. But there's a whole lot more coming in your life. Like, you're very young. So, like, just know that even though I've seen weird stuff in my lifetime, like there's been a lot of really great advancements and stuff that I've seen too. So we need to start looking for a purpose. And I think kids, especially our younger generation, they crave that direction, they crave that mentorship, they crave that structure to some degree. And we are not getting into these patterns of enough mentorship and teaching
I agree.
types of
Yeah.
roles, right?
Yeah.
We have to be there to support them. They
I,
deserve
I
that.
agree. I just recently spoke to a local Girl Scout troop, and the girls were primarily about 14 years old.
Yeah.
And one of them asked the question. They said, "We just feel like there's no hope."
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
and we see a lot of negative things happening, and we wonder, future wise, how do we have hope? And I remember looking at this little girl and saying to her and to the group, hope is in every little thing. If you don't start looking at the small things and you only look at the big tragedies that keeps being thrown at you from television and the news and people who are not very nice,
Right.
and all you see is negative. But if you take the moment to look at small moments of joy, even you guys coming together in the work you did at Habitat for Humanity,
Yeah.
the person who was so full of joy, all of those little things are little signs of hope. And you're the ones who are going to keep our hope moving forward. I'm excited because I see you. And now I have hope just because I see the hearts of the young ladies who are sitting here in this room with me. I'm here for you if you want anything. And that's what we have to do, Emily.
Yeah.
Those of us who see and understand there's that what they're faced with, we have to step back and start realizing we've got to give each of them hope, little things. Because if they
Right.
see hope in little things every single day, the hope grows, not the ugly.
Right.
If they
Yeah.
only see ugly things, it overshadows the small things. Look at
Right.
the hope and the little small things every single day, and it changes your personality. If you have a hope for humanity, help them see the small aspects of good human being and good human nature, and they'll start to see that as a common thing. It becomes the first, not the bad. That stuff goes to the back seat. I'm going to be a human being, and I'm pushing for what's human and good, and I'm going to push for love, despite the fact that I see you there, because I've got this whole group of other little friends and we're all building our hope together on the thing that's love. But we don't teach that. We teach,
Right.
oh, it's me. Oh, it's such a tragedy. Oh, life is, no. Let's start looking for the good and start showing our kids the positive and the good and give them hope, right?
Yeah.
Little triples of hope will change the world. Little
Yeah.
triples, not
Yeah.
math. Little
Well, and
triples.
I think what you and I talked about with the little trickles, right? Last time we talked was that, we have individuals out in the world today that, have millions of viewers on YouTube and all these different places, and they choose to continue to engage and give a platform to individuals. And I'm not going to even name any names because they're
Yeah,
not worth it, right?
it's not worth it. No.
Not worth it, but they keep giving platforms to these incredibly divisive and unhealthy and bigoted and just terrible, terrible people that are just spreading hate
Yeah.
and destruction in the wake of everything they do in the name of money, by the way. They're not anybody
Yeah.
that thinks these people actually believe the shit they're saying is
Right.
you're out of your mind. They're doing this to make money. That's
Right.
it. Which is
And that's
even
what the kids say.
which is horrendous
Right.
because they're corrupting hundreds of thousands of children
Yes.
and young men primarily is who they target
Yeah.
and just to make a buck,
Yeah.
right?
But I do want you to know it's easy to fall into that
Yes,
because
it's easy.
I started a podcast and it was supposed to be a beautiful thing. I was going to try and
Right,
do it as a leadership thing. And I started getting into the politics and I just stopped it until I
right.
could get my act together and
Yeah,
teach
it's
the good that I keep talking about. Then I can't, I'm not going to do my podcast until I can get beyond
right.
my anger and stop that. Let it
Yeah.
go. I'm
Well,
not
and
doing anything positive.
yeah, it's gotta be. I come from a very neutral place now. I'm very much just I don't get angry about it because I mean, whatever.
And then you
At this
introduce your
time.
children to people like me who's going to say, "Come on over.
Yeah, yeah,
Let's have,
exactly.
would you
We're
like to
coming
have a
over for
cup of tea?
gumbo.
Come on
Exactly,
over, gumbo,
exactly.
and have the
Yeah,
positive thing. Let them see. Here's
right.
a woman who believes something positive. I'm going with the hope. I'm going with
Yeah,
hope.
I am too. But this is where we have a responsibility when we have these platforms. We have to flood them with that hope. And we have to
Yes.
really, even if you have 10 followers or you have, millions of
Do it positive.
followers,
Absolutely. Let's
bring
do it
people on the
positive.
show that's going to promote positivity, give good suggestions, be a resource, want to
Absolutely.
help the community because that's the only way to kind of fight this thing is like we're fighting fire with ice. And it's like I don't like saying fire with fire because that's what everybody else is doing and it's not doing what it should be. We don't want to burn stuff down like but we got to put the fire out somehow and it's just ice seems a little less destructive than fire maybe at least it melts and
Okay.
I don't know, but fire retardant chemical, I don't
Okay.
know.
All right.
Whatever you want to get rid of the fire with, but it's got to be something that's not like
You know what?
destructive.
Here's what we're going to
Destructive.
do. We're going to slowly smother it out.
Yes, let's just
The
stomp it out.
bullshit is.
Whatever, like a blanket,
Yes, yes, yes.
yeah,
Please.
whatever's clever. I don't know, but it's got to go away because it's too much. But anyway, Cassie, any last thoughts you want to leave us with?
I think, the last thing I would leave you with is the concept of everything we do, whether we're leaders, whether we're teenagers, whether we're just getting, regardless of what group we fit in, everything is about taking a look at ourselves internally and embracing our humanity and the humanity of others. And that, when we get to that point and really truly embrace our personal humanity, we'll start to change things.
Yeah.
But it has to start with somebody knowing, I want to do that. Put some sticky notes out for yourself every day somewhere, write notes to yourself, whatever it takes. But it
Yeah.
starts with each of us individually deciding, I am going to embrace my humanity and the humanity of others.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be overnight too.
Nope.
Take little steps towards it, and every day it gets easier and easier
So learn and grow.
to spread that growth and that
Yeah.
love and humanity. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, Cassie, it has been an absolute honor and pleasure having you on the show. I would love to have you back again sometime, and we can talk
Talk
about
about some other things.
more other things because I know that it's coming. So, if you want to reach Cassie, you can find her on LinkedIn. She also is the president and CEO of Vigio Alliances LLC. And so there's information about that on the site as well on LinkedIn. There's a website for it as well, right?
Yes,
Do you
there
have a
is.
website? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
vigioalliances.com, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
No
perfect.
S on the website.
VigioAlliance.com.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you can also reach her through me. She's connected to me through LinkedIn as well. And then just a friendly reminder, everybody that we have on the show is a resource and is available to chat or if you need anything. Cassie also does executive coaching and leadership. Like she was saying, she does stuff with like the Girl Scouts and different groups like that as well. And so if you need anything, please reach out. And I'm sure we're happy to help you. If we don't have the answers, I'm sure we know enough people that we would know someone that probably does have the answer for you. So still feel free to reach out and we'll help you in any way we can. So thank you so much for listening today. And Cassie, anything else you want to touch on before we end?
No, just to say thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much and have a wonderful holiday. And we'll hopefully have you back on soon.
Wow. Cassie just shared something that I keep coming back to. The idea that we have to start with ourselves, embracing our own humanity before we can truly see the humanity in others. That story about the Girl Scout who asked, how do we have hope, just breaks my heart because I think so many of us are feeling that right now. But Cassie's response was perfect. Hope lives in the small moments, in the everyday acts of seeing each other, in choosing to build bridges instead of walls. And her point about leadership starting at the top, that Danny Meyer example of providing hospitality to your people first so they can provide it to your customers. That's not just business strategy, that's human wisdom. What really resonated with me is this distinction between authentic diversity and performative DEI. When Cassie talks about being recruited not as a checkbox, but because someone saw her humanity, her capability, her potential, that's the difference between building inclusive cultures and just managing optics. You can connect with Cassandra Chandler on LinkedIn or visit Video Alliances. Come to learn more about her executive coaching and leadership development work. She's also available for speaking engagements, and trust me, if you get the chance to hear her speak about humanity-centered leadership, take it. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with Cassie's challenge. How can you embrace your own humanity this week? How can you create those small moments of hope that she talks about? Because here's what I believe. Every interaction is an opportunity to see someone fully, to build psychological safety, and to create the kind of culture where everyone can thrive. Thanks for joining us on Talent Talks.